I just don't know about these books, guys. Welcome back to the channel, Book Dragons. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I'm going to talk about 5 books that I'm really intimidated by. And these are books that are really quite popular. A lot of people have said they're worth reading, and I don't know. I've struggled with getting motivated to read them. So, we're going to get right to it, and I hope you like this list. It'll be a short one, but they're definitely big books. And the first one on this list is The Count of Monte Cristo. If you watched a video that I did a few months back called Books That I'm on the Fence About, and I'll link it at the end of the video and the cards at the end, you'll know that Count of Monte Cristo was on that list. I want to give Count of Monte Cristo a try. I do. It's definitely on my priority list for large books that I need to try. But there's a few things that really intimidate me about it. For one, the length. It's a very long book. I think it's like 1,200 pages. So that right there kind of scares me off. Also, it's more of a historical fiction. And while some historical fiction has worked for me, not all of it does. And so I'm hesitant to pick it up based on that and also based on the size. I've seen adaptations of it, and I know I like the story behind it, so I think it'll be worth my time to get into it. I just don't know when I will get around to it, but that's the first book on this list that really intimidates me. The next book on the list is Shogun. I really enjoy this particular time period in Japanese history. And I love everything about Japan, to be honest with you. Japanese culture and history really fascinates me and intrigues me. But again, historical fiction, I just don't know. And this is a very large book, like even just taking it in chunks. And I know it's broken up into like 2 or 3 different sections. Each of those sections alone, from what I understand, is really large. And I just don't know. This is one of those that I'm more on the fence about. Like, I just don't know if I'm even going to bother. The new miniseries is coming out this week on FX and Hulu, and I definitely want to watch the miniseries. And that may turn out to be enough for me. I may not really feel the need to read the book after that. So this one I'm kind of more leaning toward no, but I'm open to possibly reading it. This one's very rare that I'll get to it, but I might. And I know it's a huge favorite among a lot of people. A lot of people have been reading Shogun on BookTube recently. I've seen a lot of videos of people talking about it who absolutely love it. So I might be missing out. I'm okay with missing out in certain circumstances. That's totally fine with me. I'm a firm believer that not every adaptation that you watch requires you to read the book first or to read the book ever. So we'll see what I end up doing with Shogun, but it's definitely on my list of intimidating books. The next book on this list is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. This one is a book that I'm definitely leaning towards no on. Again, I've had a lot of friends tell me that East of Eden is a must-read. This one is definitely more historical fiction, more literary fiction, which isn't always my cup of tea, right? I know very little about it as well. From what I understand, it's kind of a modern retelling of the Genesis story from the Bible. I don't know that for sure. Like I said, I know very little about it, but that's kind of what I've heard, and it kind of puts it in a more modern setting. This would be the first Steinbeck book I've ever read, if I do end up reading it. And I've heard that he's just great. I think Of Mice and Men is also one of his. Let me know if I'm mistaken in the comments, guys. I know next to nothing about Steinbeck, but I've heard good things about East of Eden. So many people have told me it's a must-read, so maybe I might pick it up, but It's definitely intimidating to me because it's just not a genre that I gravitate toward. It's a maybe, but it's a very weak maybe. The next book on this list is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. I read Piranesi last year, and I quite enjoyed it. It wasn't the greatest book I've ever read, but it was fun. It was unique. It was intriguing. I found myself thinking about it a lot after I had read the book and thinking back over some of the plot points and different things that it talked about. And I like it when books do that. And I would probably read Piranesi again at some point. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is a big, chunky book. And I've heard it's really, really good. I know it's more fantasy with a few kind of horror elements to it. And I think it's set in more of like a Victorian style era, which I love that era. So I think I would probably like it, and I probably will give this book a try at some point. This is one of the books on this list that is high up on my definitely at some point list. So I don't know when it will happen, but I do want to get to this book. But I think for me, it's the size that really intimidates me, because if Piranesi is any indication, I like the way that Susanna Clarke writes prose, but her prose could also be drastically different in Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. So I just don't know what to expect at this point. And I know there was an adaptation made of this book. I think it was on Netflix. I don't know if it was a Netflix original, but at some point I was interested in watching that. So this will probably be a situation where I read the book first and then watch that series at some point down the road. And if I do that, if it is that something that you guys would like to see me do a dual review of the book versus the show, kind of review them together, let me know in the comments. I would love to get your feedback on that, because I don't do a ton of movies or TV shows on the channel, but every once in a while I've done a review of both. So let me know, and we'll move on to the last book on this list, which is Infinite Jest. And this book, again, I've heard is a must-read. A lot of people love it. I know next to nothing about it except for the fact that it is kind of a satire or maybe even an allegory on American consumerism and entertainment culture. Other than that, I know nothing about it. It sounds interesting. I know it is a large book. It is very chunky. So this might be one that I should maybe try on audiobook. There's a couple of these on the list, like Count of Monte Cristo. I should probably maybe try the audiobook. I don't know. But Infinite Jest has been on my list for a while to look into and give it a shot. But it's just so large, and I don't know if it's really my kind of story, the kind of story that I would enjoy reading. And that's really important to me, guys. With any of the books I read, I want to enjoy what I'm reading and have fun with it. And, it gives me that sense of escape from the craziness of my real world, right? So I don't know what I'll think about Infinite Jest, but I've heard quite a few really positive reviews. I've heard some negative reviews as well. So that's my thoughts there. Those are 5 books that I am intimidated by for one reason or another. Let me know in the comments below what you think of my list. Share some thoughts with me about the books that I mentioned. If you think that I really would like them, let me know. If you think I wouldn't like them, also let me know. Tell me also what some of your more intimidating books are. Books that you just can't quite bring yourself to read yet because of one thing or another. I would love to know what some of your books are. And guys, I really enjoyed having you on the channel today. Thank you for taking the time to spend with me. Please make sure you read more books. I'll talk with you soon.